Welcome, everyone, to the Tethys Shipyards. I am Takeshi Yamato, the Yardmaster, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer.
Yo.
As you might have heard, today we are looking at the Imperial TIE Fighter, their most basic craft.
We will be touching upon the interceptor and the bomber, but other than a couple of rearranged stats, they're basically going to be the same. Pieces of crap. Now, we're not saying this just to be insulting to the TIE fighter. We do recognize what it is. However, we must open this with a line from Space Dock. Being a TIE fighter pilot sucks.
Yes, because,
Let me finish
well,
the quote.
yeah.
You basically have a cockpit with two horse blinders welded to either side of you with bullseyes painted on them. And that's effectively what those things are. And you can be shot down with ground fire. About the only good thing about the TIE Fighter is its centrally mounted armament, which means you don't have to have a awkward gimbal system like the X-Wing or, God forbid, the ARC 170.
Yeah. TIE fighters. TIE fighters are fragile. In fact, as is the case with some of the earlier shuttlecraft, some of the earlier pods and shuttlecraft in the Utopia Planitia book, this thing is going to have zero shields.
Still, we should get into the history of the TIE Fighter and some of its more basic variants. We're going to be more complimentary towards the more advanced models of TIE, but we're touching on the ships like the Interceptor, the Bomber, the unshielded ones, and
Yeah,
maybe the TIE Droid.
maybe.
History time. The TIE LN is the ultimate expression of the Tarkin doctrine. A swarm of manned fighters, lightly armed but in massive numbers, designed to swarm a target. Originally designed by Sinar Fleet Systems shortly during the Clone Wars, but only reaching production afterwards, the TIE pretty much replaced every single craft in the new Imperial Navy that was inherited from the Republic, and was produced in 4 basic variants, at least the standard LN, which included some extra armor in some places, stripping it down in others, until we finally reached the newest TIE variant of that line, the TIE Interceptor. But we're skipping ahead a little, aren't we?
Yeah.
Now, the TIE LN, as it is known, is armed with two heavy laser cannons, 0 shields, no hyperdrive. Basically, it's a piece of crap.
Yeah. So, in terms of, there are a couple different nicknames that you could give a TIE fighter. The common rebel operating lingo for these things was eyeball.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. Another possible nickname you could give these things, for, again, obvious reasons, is the flying coffin.
Now, the Imperial Navy was not exactly stupid. They realized they needed another TIE variant. An interceptor, if you will. Which in some cases, in some early models, actually tripled the armament, with 6 laser cannons, though in most the central mounted ones were removed and replaced with an awkward gimbal system. However, this also actually made the craft faster, and because the giant blinders were removed, you could actually see more than just a 90-degree arc. You can actually look more to the right. There's actually a
Yeah.
quite famous shot of that in the comics, I think, where a TIE Interceptor pilot is looking to their right and sees an X-Wing.
Ah.
Now, this means the TIE Interceptor is going to be faster than the TIE LN, but slightly rarer. According to source material, the new TIE Interceptor only made up 40% of the TIE fleet as of Endor.
Yeah.
But these things make terrible attack craft. You need a surface assault craft.
3, 2, unpause now.
I've already done that.
Ah.
The TIE Bomber, which just adds a secondary hull and a bomb dropper. In
Yes.
fact, that's what the entire thing is actually suited for.
Yeah,
Dropping
that
bombs.
yeah, that entire second pod is basically a giant ordnance container. Has bombs out that bottom chute, and the front aperture is basically a missile launcher, torpedo launcher, etc.
This probably actually makes it the best TIE variant because it has, well, the missiles.
Yeah. This is the only TIE variant that carries ordnance. Well, the only basic TIE variant that carries heavy ordnance. And it can fire it forward from that pod or drop it from the bomb launcher.
And that will be reflected in the document. Because, well, the TIE Bomber and the TIE Interceptor often fly with TIE fighters.
Yeah.
Still, these are the most basic TIE variants, though I suppose we should touch upon the TIE Droid as well, which is basically just a TIE LN with more firepower and armor.
This is the TIE Droid. As Ron said, it is basically a TIE fighter with slightly different solar panels, more armor, and no pilot. This thing is completely automated.
And was introduced in the somewhat maligned comic series novel Dark Empire, which also included the Eclipse class dreadnought, which we will also be doing a vid on.
Yes, that will be in a decent while though, because as we did with Galactica, we are starting small and working our way up.
With the slight exception of the TIE Interceptor and maybe the Bomber, these all are going to have really crappy settings.
Yeah.
We might as well start with the most basic structure. It
Yes.
is going to suck.
Yes. We only had we're treating the TIE fighter itself as a shuttle pod, as opposed to a shuttlecraft like we treated the X-Wing. As such, its stats are going to be considerably lower. Shuttlecraft have a basic total of 19 points as of 2200, with an additional point every 10 years. Shuttle pods are 16 as of 2200, with a point every 25 years. So, using the 2250s equivalent that I'm using for all Star Wars craft, the shuttle pods, the TIE fighter will only have 18 points. So I'm going to just put structure at 2.
We're not doing this to be insulting. Remember, these things often die in less than 2 hits. Sometimes only 1. And sometimes I've seen them be blown up by ground fire.
Yeah. We'll put engines at 4 because these things are pretty quick. Everything else will be at 3.
Respectable. And as we all know, swarms can be deadly.
Yeah. For the department values, all all small craft have at least 1 point. I have at least 1 point in con, and we'll put the second point, and we'll put this thing's second department point into security.
Because guns.
Yeah. Weaponry, it uses the same type of laser cannon. Well, the laser cannons are basically the same as in the X-Wing, only with 1 security instead of 2. It has 3 challenge. No, scale plus security plus 4 plus 2. So, yeah, same stats. 4 challenge dice, close range, vicious 1. Doesn't have any torpedo weapons. No talents. No real special rules, but it has no shields. In fact, well, that probably counts as a special rule as well. As a special rule. Special rule instead of talents. Special rule shieldless.
Basically, if you hit it, it will die. Because, I'm sorry, that's kind of how it rolls. TIE fighters suck.
Yeah, most Imperial fighter craft have no shields. Okay. One last thing on the TIE fighter as we move on to the droid. The TIE fighter has power scale 1, resistance 1, and power 2, equal to half of its engine value.
The TIE droid probably has a little more punch to make up for the fact that, well, it doesn't have a life support system or anything needed for the pilot. All it has is a droid brain.
Yeah. And I think what we'll do is we'll just give it an extra point in weapons, representing some technological advancements between the fighter and the droid. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty much the same. And it will have and they'll all have the descriptor trait Imperial Fighter, but the droid will have pilotless, automated.
As a drone fighter, it is the spiritual successor to the Vulture droid. In fact, it kind of actually looks a little bit like the Vulture droid.
Yeah.
With tie embellishments, obviously. But
yeah, and I will admit in terms of actual media, I think the TIE Droid came first, so maybe George Lucas took some inspiration.
Well, I think he was actually partially responsible for writing Dark Empire, so don't quote me on that. It's been a while.
Right. Okay, so for the bomber, I think we can boost it up a little to make it a shuttle in terms of stats.
Indeed, mostly due to the fact that it has, well...
Yeah. So that brings it up to the same point value as the T-65 X-Wing, 24.
Of course, like almost all basic TIEs, it does not have shields.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll put that in. I'll put that special rule in. Okay. Okay, that's in. So...
It has the same weapon system. I think those two little nodes there are centerline laser cannons.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense in a way.
Yeah, I'll give it a higher weapons value because of that ordnance pod.
The ship also mounts concussion missiles and probably proton torpedoes. Probably firing them out of the same tube. Remember, that is a big pod.
Yeah. So, so I've got comms 4, computers 4, engines 4. I'll put engines at 2. This thing is sluggish. Weapons will go up to 6, and structure at 4. So this thing is slow, but it hits like a truck.
It's not going to win a dogfight, but if you get into a missile duel, a BVR, for lack of a better term, fight, this thing will come out on top.
Yeah. For the 3 department points, we will put 1 point in con again, and 2 points in security.
Nasty little tie. As for the interceptor,
Yes. The interceptor is basically just similar to the TIE fighter. So, it just has better guns and better engines. So, same values as the TIE fighter to start. 1 point in con, 1 point in security. Systems values are the IR comms 3, computers 3, engines 4, sensors 3, structure 2, weapons 3. Going to put engines at 5 and weapons at 4, which means we need to take 2 points away from somewhere else.
probably computers and maybe another point at a structure.
Yeah, so computers 2, structure 1. This thing is even more of a tin can.
But it's still a hell of a lot more dangerous. Remember, 4 guns, and potentially 6, are still deadlier than 2. And this thing is fast. It might be a glass cannon, but it's a nimble glass cannon. There's a reason X-Wing pilots are so terrified of TIE interceptors.
Yeah.
In fact, the only thing that could beat them in a straight-on speed duel is the A-Wing.
Yeah.
But that is the basic TIE family. The only thing more common than them in the universe is hydrogen and stupidity. And
we're not entirely sure about the universe. We're not entirely sure about hydrogen.
Anyway, moving on to the next one.
One last thing on the bomber. As a shuttle, it would have room for a talent. I'm thinking rapid fire projectile launcher.
Most definitely. That thing is made to spew death.
Yeah. And I'll put stats in for the various projectile weapons once we're done.
Alright then. Bye-bye.